All right, our guest today is a 5-time Pro Bowl defensive end who led the NFL in sacks twice and is a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of the 50 greatest Vikings, and not just Minnesota. That includes the old-time seafaring Scandinavians. In my book, the mullet maniac himself, although he's wearing a cowboy hat right now, Jared Allen is here. What's happening, Jared?
Man, just hanging out, man. Just like I said, you guys caught me in for lunch and just got done doing some chores, and it's about it.
Nice. Well, I know you're busy, and congrats again on being named as a Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist. I feel like you're the kind of guy who might rip the sleeves off your gold jacket, right? Or would you do something like that? I mean,
let's put it this way: the thought is there. Sometimes you have to resist the impulse, though. But I mean, if the option's there, I mean, sleeveless is never a bad look.
What about that? You know what? Now that we're getting into this, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but let's say you get that bust. Have you considered, or have the clay makers or whatever, are you going to be mulleted? And would you be the first mullet in Canton?
I don't know if I would be the first mullet in Canton, but there's no way that the bust will not have this amazing sound.
Boy, that's great.
I think Jerry Jones had a mullet when he was in. No, he didn't. I'll have to go back.
Bob Greasy did. Yeah, I think. But you're right. Bob Greasy.
Jerry Jones had a Muppet. It was a Muppet.
A Muppet. Oh, okay, I got my letters mixed up. Yeah, we were talking about all the coaching changes and everything. Your former team, the Vikings, parted ways with Mike Zimmer, and we saw you posted on Vikings Instagram about it. I think it was a week ago. Still awaiting my interview. Y'all have my contact info. Have they reached out within that week? This seems like a natural fit.
No, and I was dead serious too, and that's so part of the reason I was talking with my agent and my wife. My wife was like, when she was like, "Would you seriously?" I was like, "Absolutely." I go, "The only reason Minnesota makes sense because it's the only place I could probably get away with it. Not having coaching experience,
right?
Where the fans would actually be okay with that hire." I was dead serious. So I mean, but when Rick got let go, it broke my heart. I was like, if Rick was still there, Rick's my guy. I might have a shot at it. But I doubt a new GM is going to roll the dice on a new first-time head coach. But Ed Reed, I think, said it perfect when he tweeted like, "Let's quit rotating the same." Like I think he might have said same bad coaches, but the same carousel of coaching. Mm-hmm. That's what you're seeing. You look at the teams that are having success, right? And you see the teams that are having success. A lot of it is ex-players, right? You see, I think I've been hearing a lot about Gerard Mayo. He's having success as coach. You see Vrabel's having success. Although they haven't had the playoff success they wanted over here. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because there's a connectivity between them and the locker room. So many times there's a disconnect between the coaching staff, the GM, and the locker room, and people forget that players win games. Coaches are smart. You can do all the X and O's at the end of it. But at the end of the day, it's individual matchups. It's like fights, right? Styles make fights, matchups make games, and players win games. And you look what Brady pretty much has full reins down there, and you need a great quarterback too, right? But you look at the teams that are having success, and it's because they have dominant players and they have good coaches that manage them well and create successful environments and create that model of success. But it's player driven.
So let me ask you this, potential coach Allen, what would you have done in the AFC divisional round game differently, defensively, if anything?
Broke my heart because those are two of my old coaches. I had Frazier in Minnesota, obviously, and I had McDermott. Phenomenal defensive of coordinators, phenomenal coaches, right? But you are out of your mind to be running a soft prevent guarding the sidelines. They have timeouts. There's no need to guard the sidelines. I would have squib kicked it like everybody else said, right? And even if you don't, take the squib kick out, so now you don't even have a chance of a return. I mean, you literally could have just had the safeties play deep over the top. You could have went just cover 3 deep, but at least let your underneath guys, even press up or anything, because the sideline doesn't hurt you there. They have timeouts. You just cannot allow free releases up the seam, for 20-yard chunk plays when you got a kicker that can bang at 60 yards.
But wait a second. Wait a second. Coach Cowboy 69 about that. I want to go a little bit deeper on that one. Isn't it owed to them being scared of Tyreek Hill? Doesn't it come down to that they didn't want to have what just happened to them with Tyreek Hill running by the entire defense, and that's what spooked them, and that's why they were so deep?
Let's just talk about the crappy angle. I mean, you had someone chasing Tyreek from the inside, and it was either safety or corner. He took an inside cutoff. Like he should have just went to the sideline. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a chance. But what are the odds of him? The odds of him banging an 80-yarder you know what I mean, on you in that situation are null, right? So the ball there's no time. So he can't hold the ball to go deep. So it has to be a catch and run situation. Right? So you know they're coming out to catch and run. You cannot give them free releases. I would have ran press on the corners or bracket on them, and then have one deep safety that's 40 yards deep and just say absolutely nothing over the top. Yeah. But to play like it, I mean, they were in like a nickel, so it wasn't a 4-man rush or a dime. But you can see in the last play, you saw the corner with outside leverage, right? So we have a player who covers that way where when a team has no timeout, you're protecting the sidelines, right? Because you're trying to prevent the deep outs or give them the dig, give them the out. Who cares? You're trying to protect against yardage in this situation. You don't really care. Time's on your side. So I would actually had my safeties deep, but I would have just done something to disrupt the timing, because the longer he has to hold the ball too, then at least you're just eating that clock. That's when I saw them let him free release up the seam and the corner was sticking to the outside press with his back to the sidelines. I was just like, then again, I'm not a fan of prevent defense. So,
but all right. So, Coach Allen, I want to ask Player Allen a question now.
Yes,
because my podcast partner TJ Houshmandzadeh suggested that he would have taken all the defensive linemen out of the game. And on that, for the last 13 seconds, Sal agreed with him. He said, no D linemen. I'm putting in linebackers and corners. Somebody can go out there and make a tackle. Now, you talk about how coaches are, coaches who were players have a better connection to the locker room.
Yeah.
How do you take that? You're going to have a yellow jacket eventually. How do you take coming out of the game in the playoffs on a game deciding play?
I wouldn't go like sans defensive lineman, right? I'd put probably my 1 or 2 edge rushers in, leave them. But again, if you have Mahomes, right, if he's scrambling up the middle, game's over, right? So I probably would have taken out and just, I totally see what he's saying about you can remove the D tackle, 1 D tackle. I heard people say, why are they rushing 4? They should rush 3. Especially in that instance, you're right. Your rush isn't really going to do much, right? You're just kind of giving them a presence, or you could literally fake rush, drop back, But yes, in rushing that situation, the ball has to come out quick. I'm not against it, but
as a player, though, was your coach called you to the sideline, would you not be like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, you're pissed off, but in that situation, as a player, you have to know the game too. You have to know he doesn't have the time to go deep.
Right.
If he sits back there and passes the ball and goes deep, now that's a Hail Mary jump ball, right? If they catch it, I guess it sucks. So that's why I say, maybe I keep 1 or 2 rushers just to keep it honest and try to keep it on time. But that situation, they are trying to get the ball. They're trying to get whatever the defense will give them chunk wise and get down. So as a player, I'm not pissed because my ultimate goal is to win the game, right?
Well, it's a rare situation. Here's why I agree with TJ about rushing 0, because it's not a Hail Mary situation. He's not throwing a Hail Mary from the 20.
It's got to come out quick.
And he's got to get it off in like 4 seconds. So who cares if you rush 0? Just get all tacklers on the field there. It's just it's such a rare thing that was going on.
You just don't want to allow what happened. Like the worst thing that could have happened, right?
Right, sure.
You get a free 15-yard release up the seam, back to back. You just picked up 40, 50 yards in a matter of, seconds, and you have a kicker, that can kick the ball 60 yards, right? So absolutely, you're underneath. That's why I was saying you're underneath coverage, whether it's, no rush, whoever your underneath coverage people are going to be, they need to play aggressive to their guys and disrupt that. So there's no run after catch. There's no, you can lay on them. You can, eat a few seconds here or there. But yeah, I wouldn't have been opposed to that. As a player, you have to understand the situation and be honest. If you don't have a sack or if you don't have the numbers you want at that point, let's be honest. You just scored with 13 seconds left to give yourself a chance to win the game. Yeah. Just win the game.
Is that Chief Stadium the toughest to play in? Is it the loudest? I know you played in Minnesota with that Gallahorn, and I did a pregame Thursday night comedy bit on the Gallahorn, how loud it is. And then I watched the game. It's like, oh my God, they play that thing 75 times a game. If you're just a neutral player without a uniform, what's the last place you want to go to play?
Chiefs is one of them right there. The Metrodome was insanely loud. Obviously didn't play at the new facility. But from an outdoor stadium, there's hands down nothing louder. That is an insane environment to play in the Chiefs stadium. So yeah, that to me was just, So,
what if it were the Vikings and Chiefs in a Super Bowl? Who does 69 root for?
Oh, Vikings.
Vikings. Okay, let me ask you this then, as a Vikings faithful guy. What do you make of, I know you talked about this, 10, 15 years ago when Brett Favre went from the Packers to the Vikings. I find it, I get the desperation if you're a Minnesota fan. We want to see a Lombardi already, and we'll do anything to get it, even trade in our dignity. To watch a guy who tormented us for a decade and a half. Now we'll cheer for him? That feels dirty to me. What do you think about, what if Aaron Rodgers says, you know where I'd most like to go just to stick it to Gutekunst and company? I want to go to Minnesota, just like Favre did. Do you, as a Vikings guy, if you're GM Cowboy 69, do you say, please come on over, 12, we want you here?
You know what? It depends on what the pieces are, right? I don't know that Minnesota has the pieces to be contending at that level right away, right? Aaron's going to make a great deal, or make you a great deal better, but you're talking about maybe a 2-3 year fix max, right? I mean, you gotta remember, he's 16 years in. Is he 16 or 15? He's right in that range, right?
Yep.
So you got to assume that, that's a 2. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Because then, like, for us to bring Favre in made sense because we literally were a quarterback away. I mean, all of our defense was in our prime. We had AD. We had a great offensive line. So, but do you take him as a player? You get a chance to have a franchise quarterback at that caliber. You take it. And
it was dirty. It was dirty, 69. Yeah. It wasn't right to bring in 4. It wasn't right.
69 is dirty
right.
too.
But I'm not a fan. I'm trying to win a ring, right? So you do whatever it takes to win a ring. And if sometimes, they say, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Sometimes you got to dance with the devil.
Maybe it should be exactly like Favre did. Rodgers should have to go to the Jets for a year and suffer that way. And then,
that'll humble anybody.
Right, exactly.
Hands down, best. I shouldn't say best. Most loyal fans have got to be Lions fans and Jets fans because they have been on the losing end of everything.
Yeah, right, it's rough,
and they stick with it. I would have bailed on that franchise years ago.
Hey, I want to talk about the sack record. You had 7 straight seasons with double-digit sacks, I believe. You had 22 in 2011, just a half away from tying the record. And you didn't think this record would ever be broken, right?
You know what? I still don't know that it does. It's so many things have to line up for it to happen. Now with 17 games, that's a different thing. Now you're talking about a potential. I mean, you already have to have multiple big sack games to get to that number in a 16-game season. So if you're on one of those runs and you can throw another 2-3 sack game in there, it has potential. But in my opinion, it would be asterisk because, look what potentially Gastineau could have done. I could have done. Strahan could have done. Justin Houston could have done if they had one more game.
It is also easier to double team an edge rusher than it would be to double team like a Cooper Kupp, wouldn't, right? So you got that working against you.
Yeah, very true. You can bracket Cooper Kupp again. I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay was really wishing they wouldn't have let that one.
Right.
So
that was bad.
Again,
too.
I don't know why you zero blitz in that situation, but hey, ball's already going to come out quick.
I think you had a sack taken away from you in 2011, right?
I did, actually, against Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, boy.
So they gave it to me, and they called it a team sack the following Wednesday. Very similar to what happened with T.J. Watt. Aaron took the snap, stepped up in the pocket, ran into the tackle, dropped the ball, picked it up, rolled out. I tackle him, sack, right? He can still throw the ball. They called it a muff, and those now go to those are team sack, which I don't know what the heck a team sack is. But back in the day, it used to be no matter what, ball over the head, quarterback falls down, whoever's the first one to touch him, that's a sack.
Yeah. We also had Johnny Knoxville on this week. He's got Jackass Forever coming out. I know he's one of your favorites. You were in the last movie, Jackass 3D. You absolutely leveled him. Is that in your top 10 favorite sacks? I feel like that could be on your Canton consideration video. I think we have it here too.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I was most disappointed about that was it was really muddy that field that day. And my goal was I wanted to just absolutely bull rush Preston on his neck and then sack Knoxville. Right. But I was so worried. I'm like, if I try this and slip, I'm going to look like a jackass on TV.
Oh.
So, we just went ahead and played it safe, came around the edge, untouched, and smashed him. But yeah, I hit him really hard. I found out later he separated the sternum or something on that. But toughest human beings I've ever, and that was freelance. So we were the one where he was coming across the middle catching a pass. We did that a few times. He kept like tensing up, and I tried to tell him, I was like, if you just don't tense up and you just allow this to happen,
right.
Look. But they gave me this helmet from like Big Five, which I could literally bend with my hand. So I got my PR lady, she's like, you better be careful. Like if you get a concussion during Jackass 3D, you're probably, the Vikings some money,
Right.
So when we got done doing that, he was already like, oh my gosh, this sucks. And I was like, well, if you want to know what I'm not a linebacker. So if you want to know what I really do, drop back and try to throw a pass. And they were like, absolutely. And, we broke his back of his neck. They were pretty good, but great dudes, tough as nails. I've stayed in contact with them forever. They've been great supporters of my foundation. One of those classic "don't judge a book by its cover" type of people, man. Such good hearts. They were awesome.
He wore 69 and you wore 70. Let's play it here. We got to. You took. Now, did the NFL take this sack away from you? They didn't count this either.
Because I celebrated with my knee on the ground.
I see. Well, that's the pre thing there. We're going through this all. Yeah. Interesting. All right, we'll get it up. Okay. Right.
I have a question for you off of exhibition style sacks. This was an exhibition, and here, let's take a look at this.
Yeah,
let's ready to roll here.
It's a great first step, though, too. Oh.
It's so funny. You told him your advice was to not tense up, because I did a bit with Knoxville where he was to punch me in the nuts, and that's exactly it. And that's the advice he gave me, like, don't tense up. I'm like, all right, well, I only got 2 of these. I wasn't done having kids at the time, but yeah, look at that. That's a great hit. Oh, they threw the flag.
Boy, you really could have set football players back quite a bit if you would have gotten owned. If you would have gotten blocked and didn't get here before the ball got released, it would have been like, well, what the hell?
No. So my buddy was with me. He's like, dude, you got it. He's like, you totally got to run over Preston, right? And I was like, man, this field is sopping wet and muddy. I'm like, if I slip and fall, this is not going to be good, because that'll make it in.
The field does look shitty. Yeah.
What happens though? What happens though now with this Pro Bowl? Now more guys every year. It's like it becomes it gets laid bare more and more. Who gives a crap about this game? Why would you possibly, in a collision sport, even though no one really hits each other at this point, why would you go out there and risk injury like that?
It's you know what? It started changing kind of towards the end of my career. I'll never forget, I was at one Pro Bowl and literally the 5th alternate at a position made a Pro Bowl. When I first came in, and obviously I'm sounding old, but even prior to that, like that 4th quarter was still competitive, right? It was competitive enough because guys wanted to pay their bar tabs for the week and hotel bills.
Right.
So I just think now when they moved, I think what the real opposite was when they put it before the Super Bowl. You basically said it's not important, right? Because guys used to play the Super Bowl and then come over to the Pro Bowl. Yeah. So it was still about the players, and there was still kind of a sense of pride about being there and earning that right to come across the water to Hawaii and all that fun stuff. I think when that happens, when they put it to the week before, and they tried to bring it stateside, it just felt like it was a gap filler,
Right. They
You're
sent
already
the
going
message.
to have all these alternates now playing because the Super Bowl guys can't be there. So I think guys started saying, well, if the league's not going to take it serious, I'm not going to take it. Why am I going to show up and play?
Here, I have a better way. 69. What do you think about this as a player? I say, get rid of this jive. No one cares about it. And instead, the 2 worst teams play each other with the number 1 pick on the line. The winner, and you played on that same bum field where you sacked Johnny Knoxville. And I've talked to a lot of players, and they say the NFLPA would never sign off on this. Who wants to go play in an embarrassing game like this? Well, you pay them. That's why. Same thing as the Pro Bowl. You pay them to be a part of it. And wouldn't that be the greatest game? People say, who would care to watch the Jaguars play the Texans or whoever it would be? Like, everybody. That's who would want to watch it. We only have a couple games left to watch before we go into the desert without football. Wouldn't this be the best game? What's the downside of this?
Well, the downside is it's the 2 worst teams playing, right? So you're like, well, tight. And then the upside is it's really only the people that, legitimately want the number 1 seed. Not everybody wants the number 1 seed. So now are people, are they going to lose on purpose? Put themselves in a better trade bracket? Who knows?
Also, likely both coaching staffs are decimated. Yeah, they've all been fired.
So you probably got the equipment guy,
self-coach.
Overcome adversity. That's all we ever hear from you guys is we got to overcome about the guys in this locker room. No one believes in us. All that stuff.
That's the other crap. See, that's the other crap as a coach that I would just tell guys, like, listen, be authentic. Don't have to be, it doesn't have to be a full conversation with the media, but this whole, let's give it 110%, go out there, give it 110%. Like, sometimes it's refreshing to hear people say what's actually on their mind.
They can't help themselves. They've been saying the same stuff for 30 years. Right?
Dude, it's ingrained into your head to just like, I got all the respect in the world for this. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You know what? You want to win. Like someone asked me one time, they said, do you want your opponent to be at their best when you play them? I said, absolutely not. Like if I had to fight Mike Tyson, I hope he has the flu. I hope he has shoulder surgery. And I'm going to fight him the hardest I can. And I'm going to tell everybody I won.
Yeah. It's about winning.
Jared, what type of game is harder to win? We just talked all about how football games are incredibly hard to win. Lost one in 13 seconds last week. Or is it curling? Because I've watched curling and I have no idea how it works. So I don't know how to win or lose that game.
Man, that's curling's tough to win because there's so much strategy, and literally little mistakes can make it. That's a heck of a question. I'd have to think about that. Probably curling is. It's not like football too. You can lose bad quickly too. So I honestly, curling because the chances of a blowout are a lot harder in curling than it is to.
Interesting.
You can slowly stack points. But you score in your first 3 possessions in a football game, you're up, two possessions. When you got a pretty solid chance. You can change the way football teams have to play quicker, I should say. Where curling, it can be way more methodical unless you just give up 5 or 6 points on one end, which is very rare. Then you just quit.
Curling, I lost a lot of money.
What about when you drop the spear thing when you sit up in a tree and you do that jive? That's when's the last time you did that weirdo move?
That's the last time I've speared anything. I haven't been an opportunity to spear anything. I took my pops elk hunting this last November. That was fun. We went out to Montana, did some elk hunting and some whitetail hunting. And my poor dad, I'll give him credit. We hunted him like he was Vietnam. I tell you what, he was crawling up and over barbed wire,
nice.
belly crawling, hiking all day up and down mountains, and he was just 60, 70 years old, just dealing with it. I love it.
Jared, before you go, give us your winners. Who takes it? Who's meeting up in the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, you know what? I honestly think it's probably going to be Kansas City 49ers again. It would be cool to see. It'd be cool to see 2 new teams. It'd be cool to see the Bengals get there just because they haven't done anything in like 40 years. And then I don't know. The Rams. It's hard to cheer for an ex-Lions player. You know what I mean?
Oh.
The big Aaron Donald fan. I think Aaron Donald's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
But I just think the Niners kind of have their buddy. They beat him twice this year, I think, haven't they?
They beat him 6 in a row. Yeah.
Oh, so that weighs on their mind whether they like it or not. Big game. No one expects the Niners to win. Niners, Chiefs again.
All right. I thank you for coming on. I kind of agree there. Tell us about this foundation. You brought it up before.
Oh, yeah. So what we do, I've been doing it since 2009. We build homes for wounded vets all across America.
Good man.
And it's Jared Allen's Homes for Wounded Warriors. And so we build handicap accessible homes specifically to the needs of the injured vets coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan. So we just gave away our 24th home a couple months ago right before Christmas. And you got, I think, like 6 more projects going. So just cranking away.
Good for you. Good for you. All right, Jared Allen, you heard him. He challenged Mike Tyson. We're going to try to make that happen. He wants to fight Mike Tyson. There have to be ideal conditions, but
only if Tyson is sick, right?
Yeah,
he's sick.
And if we can broadcast it so everybody knows.
Huge Tyson fan, by the way. I never got to meet him.
Drunk, has COVID on his period, all of it. No one outside that tree you're sitting up in believes in you, Jared Allen.
That's my point. But when people say I want my opponent at their best, that's not a winning mentality. I will do anything I can to win. And if they're at their worst, I'll take it.
This was great. All right, Jared, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Take care, man.